black and white.
Is it really?
Yeah.
If you didn't know you when you saw you, what do you think you look like?
I think I look fabulous. It makes me laugh to see myself. I get a kick out of me. I even talk to myself sometimes saying, I can't believe your nerve, or I can't believe you pulled this one off. Right, I mean, I don't take myself as seriously as some people think.
You've said sometimes that Cher is an invention. Okay, what did you invent?
I invented someone who was funny and interesting and not the most beautiful person on the block, and yet still could convey that kind of feeling across, and someone who is open and not open, and I think that you can invent your life as you go along. I mean, you know, you're born with this huge piece of paper or canvas, and you can put anything on it you want to.
What was your childhood like? I read that things were so bad that you were, for a while, lived in a Catholic charity home.
Well, my mother had to work, and there was no place to put me, so she put me into this. I don't know exactly what it was. I don't know if it was a home or an orphanage or something like that. And it was rough, and I know my mother was working all night, like in an all-night diner, and kind of the hard part on me was that she had to put me from place to place while she was doing these jobs. And I think that that's a reason, too, why I have kind of a hard time staying with anything for too long a time.
Your mother was married 8 times.
Yes, 3 times to my father. And yet I never remember a man in the house.
That's crazy. I mean, what did she do? Did she get married for 2 minutes? They never came home?
She married my father. She left my father. She married a man named Chris Alcade. She left him. Then she married my sister's father. Now, by this time I was like 3 years old. And then I remember the other ones, but they just weren't there for very long. I have 2 memories of really fabulous fathers. My sister's father, who's dead, and my stepfather, who I have his name, Gilbert Lapierre. And
but even they weren't around very long.
Not really, but I guess they were around at times when it really was important to me.
So what does this make you think about men?
I think men are fun and nice, and I don't think they're necessary to live. Chastity has a decent father. I think Sonny's a decent father. I think he...
Your daughter?
Yes. Elijah's father is absolutely useless and not worthwhile at all.
Good all.
Yeah. I mean, he hasn't called Elijah in 2 years.
Tell me about your father.
You know, my father is dead. He just died, and I don't feel anything about him. I met him when I was 11.
Never knew him before?
No.
He left your mother when you were how old?
My mother left him when I was a year old.
Okay.
And I met him when I was 11, and he was very showy. I mean, he was flashy. And also, everyone in my family, except my great-grandmother who was dead, was blonde. And when I saw this dark man walking into the house, for the first time I thought, okay, so now I understand everything. This is where I came from.
Did he look like you?
Exactly.
I would have thought you would have adored him. Daddy.
I did for 6 months, and then he was such a letdown to me that it crushed everything.
What did he do?
Well, he was a heroin addict at the time. He almost burned our house down. And he pawned all my mother's jewelry, and there was a part, if I'd known him when he was younger, I think I would have liked him because he and I were a lot alike in good qualities, but he had led the life of in and out of jail and a junkie for so long that it kind of it took over.
Did you ever see him again after you were 11? Did he ever become a part of your life?
He tried to, but, you know, usually, like, he'd do one nice thing, and then I remember being in New York and this Armenian rug dealer calling me up and saying, your father gave me a bad check, and he said you'd be responsible for it, and the reason I know he was your father was that he sold me this picture of you and your daughter and him together. And it was the only picture we'd ever taken. And it was Chastity, my father, and me, and he sold it to this guy. And I just thought, you know, I haven't got time for this.
Then how, after this experience with your father, could you ever have married Greg Holman?
Who knows why I married him?